Hey fellow crafter, why don't you hang out and make some collage mistakes with me? We're going to play with some different adhesives, try to get transparent papers on this wood board, and just see where it goes. I'm Banana. Thanks for joining me for my first video. Hello. We have a 5x7 smooth gesso board that I got at a local craft store, and I've never done collage on a wood board before. I've barely done collage before. So what I've got here are some different gel prints, kind of test papers. This is all copy paper, trying out kind of different techniques and see what papers I might use just to test this. These are all deli paper. I got this from a recommendation of a video by Susan Clifton, and it was from Amazon where it's called tracing paper, but it's really nice. I did some experiments in my sketchbook. It does go very nicely transparent. And then this is more just like little scraps of that deli paper to have on hand. I'm going to try some different adhesives, primarily for the copy paper. I have this Mod Podge I put in a little bottle with like a nice narrow nozzle on it. I've also got some gloss medium that is really more like a gel, and that is definitely handy for using to get transparent papers. I've got a catalyst wedge that I'm kind of sort of learning to use. Some other tools handy, color shaper. This is another wedge tool that belonged to my brother who passed, and it was one of the few things I kept from his apartment, so I like to try to use it where I can to keep him nearby. All right, from here I'm going to speed up the video, but I really enjoyed the time I spent working on this and trying out different layers and seeing where it went. As I started trying to tear up some of the papers, I was not just trying out different adhesives like the Mod Podge versus the gloss medium. I was trying out different tools using the color shaper, using the other wedge tool. I also just ended up using my fingers a lot. So what you're seeing here is I'm pulling out different papers, and this is from my like roll-off sheets. So I have a, there it is, KitchenAid little instruction manual that I found at the thrift store for $1, and I've just been using that for roll-off sheets. At this point in the process, I really did not have any sort of plan for what I was doing. So you see I'm like pulling out different papers, trying them out in different spots, letting things hang over. What you're seeing now is I also had this little plastic tub of scraps that I forgot was there, and started pulling papers out of that to see what might fit in here. So yeah, I kind of was just letting things evolve. All of this was just meant to be a test. I had no vision in mind whatsoever. If you saw a second ago there, I had a bottle that said water mister. I used that along with the gloss medium. So it's gloss medium down first, then I spray the deli paper to get it wet, put that down, and then put more gloss medium on top. Definitely that's I feel like a Jackie Bernardi special to get the papers to be as transparent as possible. Jackie has I think, continuous spray bottle, which I wasn't about to go buy, but I did have a Dawn Power Wash dish soap thing, and I realized like it's essentially the same. It's a continuous spray. So I just, when it was empty, was like waiting and waiting and waiting for that thing to get empty, and cleaned it out and just put plain water in there, and that has been working just fine. I'm slowing down here as I'm looking through some of these deli papers with black paint or Sharpie pen to bring in some contrast. I thought it would be fun to see how well the paper part would fade into the background and just leave the paint shapes on top. I was trying to very carefully tear out this one specific paint blob and not waste any of the other deli paper, even though I have a whole stack of this paper. I'm just cheap and trying not to be wasteful, so I had to sit there and tear it out very specifically. and then start deciding where it was going to go. So I was looking at some different positions, and eventually I stuck it right there in the middle. Now we can see I'm going to grab the gloss medium, get the deli paper wet, get it placed in with more gloss medium on top, which I'm doing with my fingers because I just decided at some point that that was the easiest thing to do. And I was really excited to see how transparent it would end up looking, how much contrast we could get, or I could get using the deli paper. And I think it turned out quite well. I mean, look at that. I think you can barely see any traces of the original paper except for like one little spot there. So what's going to be coming up next is, even though I just put things down on the paper, I like let it dry for a little bit. And because I'm impatient, I started cutting off some of the paper that was hanging over. I could have just like left this until I was fully done, but I just wanted to see how it would look. And I'm using a craft knife that I do not remember buying. I am pretty sure I just like kept this from my dad's toolbox at some point, and I haven't lived with my parents in 20 years, so this is a very dull, not great blade, to be honest. I finally got a replacement after filming this video, and like, oh my god, it's so much nicer having a sharp blade. But yeah, at some point as I was doing this, I actually like couldn't really get a good feel for where I was cutting the paper, and I like nicked into the wood itself. So use sharp blades. It's safer and easier. I started looking at the panel from different directions and was feeling like this black paint splotch looked like the base of a flower. And my plan to this point was that I had no plan, it was completely abstract. But I was looking at this purple streak of paint on the deli paper that I thought could kind of fit in there as a stem. I was trying to put a little notch into it to fit around that black paint and not cover it up. Uh, and later on, I didn't really love this purple here as like a standalone stem. I figured it was going to need something else over it, but I still like having this splash of purple. From here, I started picking up some different papers to test out what might make some good petal shapes or leaf shape. So I found that little corner of medical exam paper with the bright green, as well as these two deli papers, one with some just magenta paint, and the other was a stencil with some fluorescent pink and some white. And that middle stenciled paper is, I know, going to get covered up, but I thought it'd be kind of a fun background to have that might end up showing through the petals later on. So then I was thinking about what shapes I might need for making these petals. I had this other piece of medical exam paper that had like all these kind of magenta and blue marks on it that I was just playing with one day. And so far, I felt like when I would play with medical exam paper in my like mixed media sketchbook, that it didn't go as transparent as I was led to believe, let's say, or expected from watching various videos. I still feel like the deli paper is way better, but I was pleasantly surprised that it did get fairly transparent working on this panel. So I started, as you're seeing me move things around, like I'm looking at where can I put these petals, and I really did not think this through in terms of what should go down first, like what shapes are the furthest away. I feel like that middle background petal that is going to be here should have been first, but at the same time, throughout the second half of this process, once I knew it was going to be a flower, I was constantly thinking, what does a flower even look like? What flower is this? No reference. I was just making this up and feeling like maybe it's a little childish. But I try to back up and just say it's an abstracted flower. Also, it's just a test. It doesn't have to be perfect. this whole issue of perfectionism is such a burden for me, and I know so many other artistic people, creative people, human beings in general. It's a struggle. But certainly, I'd kind of put this under the mistakes made while doing collage, thinking about like, what is it gonna look like? Am I making something that makes sense? And what order am I doing things in? What's happening? Why have we just jumped ahead? It's because I knew I was going to get a phone call that was going to interrupt my recording, and I'm impatient. So I decided to just keep going while I waited and, question my life choices that led me to making what feels like a super ugly collage. And also, my light is going, and I don't know what the heck way I should be doing my camera. We're all making mistakes together. I don't hate it. It's getting a little better. I was sort of picturing, I don't know, adding some kind of like marks on top. Either I have some pastels, which I also don't know how to use, or I don't know if marker would, like, acrylic marker would work. I don't know. But yeah, I'll figure it out. Back the next day, trying to put down this green leaf. Uh, and I was using the paint shaper to see if that was better than my fingers and quickly gave up. I was also getting a lot of glare from my window, so I ended up propping the panel up on my catalyst wedge. I went back to this deli paper with all the black paint marks to try to enhance that black spot at the base of the flower, and that took some trial and error to decide on the placement. I do feel like I have a bit of a challenge when it comes to planning the placement of a piece of paper and then pulling it away to spray it, to add glue, and then remember exactly where it was going to go down. So I was kind of like guessing and forgetting and decided I just have to commit to whatever was going to happen, including ripping the deli paper in the process in places. But as I was listening back to my own recording, my own audio, I was just sitting there like, it's fine. We'll fix it later. It doesn't have to be perfect. Oh boy. Oh, you're wrinkling. You're wrinkling, Jimmy. Anyway, I think we're at a stopping point here for this wood panel. I'm really just trying out some other deli papers with dark marks to see if we can bring in some contrast here. But if you stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching and checking out a new channel. You can leave a comment about any of your own art challenges or things you think I could improve going forward. Feel free to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video.